I'm Cheryl Wagner, and I am the curator of the Island Media Arts Festival, which is the little film festival of big dreams. And I've had lots of big dreams in my life, and I've been surprised where they've taken me. But I started off as a puppeteer here on PEI 100 years ago, and that led me, we then evolved into we did puppet shows, live puppet shows, and then we added clown to the mixture. So I got out from behind the puppet stage because I was a very shy person back then and hid behind a clown nose and so did clown work for children's theater and then did television work as a puppeteer. And then from Nova Scotia got pulled to Toronto to work. I auditioned for Fraggle Rock, which was a TV show that the Muppets did in Toronto. So I got to work on Fraggle Rock for 5 years. And then I worked on Mr. Dress Up as a television puppeteer. But meanwhile, I had this dream of being a writer for television. So I started writing for television and sold one to a show called Under the Umbrella Tree out of Ottawa. And that was the most fun I'd had in a long time, which was a big surprise. I didn't know that I'd enjoy writing more than performing, but I did. Because in truth and in fact, I was still that shy person. But one thing about being shy is that often you're really observant, that you might not be at the center of all the fun, but you're watching it. So you get to really know people maybe better than other people do, right? So I was a writer, and then I came up with a great idea for a television show. And it was called The Big Comfy Couch. And I dreamt that up my very own self because a friend of mine actually wanted me to dream up a television show for her. And she wanted to star in it. And what I came up with was The Big Comfy Couch. And she was 37 years old. And I told her, you can have the good news or the bad news. She said, okay, what's the bad news? I said, you can't be the star of a television show with a young clown if you're 37. She said, well, what's the good news? I said, you can be the granny. So she became Granny Garbanzo on The Big Comfy Couch. But so my surprising life from the very shy girl hiding behind the puppet stage, so shy I would not come out and take a bow, honest, has led me from puppetry to clowning to writing to producing my own television show, and which I found the most creative of all those joyous efforts was to make it all up myself. And then I call it my slow-mo magic wand, and it takes years from the moment you think it up to it really happening. But finally that wand touches and poof, there it is in 3 dimensions. It's a thrill. I think it's really important to gain skills that maybe don't appear to be exactly what you want to do, but they'll be informing. For example, I worked as an actress, and then later I worked as a writer, and I was working on an adult drama with other writers. And what was very evident was that the writers who had studied acting or been actors were much more adept at writing dialogue than the writer who was full of brilliant ideas was, because he didn't understand what an actor could do, how little an actor needs to get so much across. So if you want to be a writer, I recommend take some acting classes. If you want to, I think it's important to gain skills, and it doesn't mean going to school for 4 years somewhere. I think take little workshops, gain language. Just understanding the lingo of something informs. And it also puts you into relationship with other people. And I think that's a very important one, to work with people at your same level, because as everybody rises up, you'll be rising too. Like, people sometimes look like, oh, I want to go be with someone who's really way up there. And it's like, no, maybe you should hang out and work with people who are a little lower and grow together and rise up. So in terms of screen-based storytelling, whether it's film or television, I think training is important. If you can go to a film school, gain skills, gain the language, meet other people who are committed and passionate about what they're doing, who are at your same level, but they're going to move on up. So if you can take a 1-year film school, like Vancouver Film School, I don't know how long their programs are, performing arts here on PEI, I think training is very valuable, and it's not just for getting the time to just, well, number one, to just focus on it. I mean, hallelujah, that's you don't get that later in life so much. Like when you're young, you should grab the time to study because it's such a vibrant, fertile time. But you're also going to meet people who are interested in what you're interested in, and you just never know where that's going to lead. For example, my doing Big Comfy Couch. I partnered with a fellow puppeteer from Fraggle Rock. I met him on Fraggle. But what he didn't want to be a puppeteer. He wanted to be a movie producer and a television producer. He wanted to be a producer. I had no interest in being a producer, but I had a great idea, right? So I had this great idea, and he wanted to be a producer. So we put it all together, and we went and pitched it around and did what we do. And we had no idea what we were doing. And then after all these meetings, we'd go to a bar, and we'd sit in the bar and try and figure out, well, what do you think they meant? I don't know. What did we just agree to do? I don't know. And it was a wonderful bar because it was the Mediterranean in Toronto, and it had this huge tank of fish. We'd sit beside the fish, and there were like piranhas that come and like bang against the wall, and we'd look and go, oh gosh, this is TV now. Like, it's really scary. But Rob would always say, we're producers. And I go, oh, I don't want to be a producer. I don't think. So there I was going, I don't want to be a producer. But what truly happened was we didn't really think we'd get financing because we came out of performance and we didn't have production background. So Rob got the chance to take a job in LA with the Muppets doing a TV show there. And he signed on and said yes, and he was on his way to go. And all of a sudden we were greenlit for Comfy Couch. So for first season of Comfy Couch, I was sitting there alone as the producer. Like, it was the last thing I expected I thought he could do that part, right? So what you have to be is willing to say yes when surprises come your way. Because I found in this industry, it's so much about the unexpected and your response to the unexpected and being able to go with it. Because it's never quite what you thought it was going to be, but it still could be something, right? So, yeah, and it's very ironic because that first season of Big Comfy Couch, we won an award of excellence. When I went to audition for Fraggle, I was living here and flew up to Toronto because it was like the king of puppetry is auditioning in Toronto. You're going to go and audition. And everybody in the country was there. There were something like 300 people auditioning in one day. It was just a zoo, but ultimately it came down to, I think 10 of us were hired, something like that. And it was wonderful to be at that level, to work with people with that kind of caliber, and it just pushes your skill set up. Like, even just observing will push your skill set up. When I got the work on Dress Up, I had to adjust because when you work on with the Muppets, everything's on your feet, and they've built the sets up high, and so you can run around and get all those great motion, that movement. And Dress Up was like back in 50s television. You're like hiding behind something. You got this little puppet, and live to tape, crawling from set piece to the next set piece. So I was sort of cranky about that because it was like, oh no, I'm going back to 50s television. But once I got there and working with Mr. Dress Up himself, I'm lucky girl. We did a show in the morning and we did another show in the afternoon, and that's half an hour of television in the morning, half an hour of television in the afternoon. So it was live to tape. You couldn't go, oh, I blew it. What you got, you kept. Basically, it was very rare to stop tape in that show. He was wonderful. He was who you saw. He was just the best person to work with. He was never cranky, and we always had fun. But it was very challenging because literally, if you had to be over at that set piece over there, you had to get out of shot and crawl out of there and run over. So it was sort of like doing theater. In many ways, it had that kind of feeling because it was like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we're on, right? And it was a very happy bunch of people working together. So I don't think that's surprising. And he was so genuine. And that's kind of unusual sometimes in television, right? But he was, and that was precious. It was wonderful to work with him. There is such a huge demographic out there of people who grew up on Comfy Couch, who are on Facebook and on YouTube doing their own clockwork stretch and everything. It's crazy out, right? And so whenever it comes up, if someone meets me and they're 22 or something and they watched the show when they were kids, it's like, oh my God, that meant so much to me, you know. And so that's so heartwarming, you know, because it's like, to have what you did actually have an impact on people's lives. And I've had letters from parents and articles written by a fellow who had lost his mom and his wife had lost her brother, and they watched a show we did about death on Big Comfy Couch called Full of Life. And it wasn't about grief, it was about the idea of life leaving, being empty or full. And but he said what it meant to their family and how they watched it as a family and what it meant to them. So it's been, I mean, that's a very serious tone, but I mean, just in the cheery joy of dust bunnies running around and how people say, I love the dust bunnies, you know, like just to know, I mean, I feel so rich that who would have thought that shy girl in PEI hiding behind the puppet stage would, because Comfy Couch was very much my brainchild. It came from my work as a clown and a puppeteer, and I was also a mother. So I understood little guys better than my partner, who didn't have kids at the time. So I think, I mean, I was the creator, and I stayed on. I rarely wasn't on set on Couch. So everything that I made sure everything was what I felt it should be. Being that sort of terrified of everything that I was, that, you know, I mean, not everyone is, you know, dealing with the debilitating shyness. I don't think. No one believes it now when they meet me. I mean, there's one thing to say about what puppetry can do for people. Like, most puppeteers I ever met were also very shy, even Jim Henson. Like, it's sort of natural that you can do more through your hand than you can through yourself. But I think what I tell someone is that I always thought if you knocked on a door, you were sort of cap in hand bothering people. And I learned that that's not true, that if you have enthusiasm and commitment, that you can't be ignored, that no matter where up the ladder people are, they will listen to you, because the combination of commitment and enthusiasm and intention of saying, I want to do this, I'm here and I mean it, won't be pushed away. It really won't. You'll be welcomed. And I didn't know that. I thought it was like, oh, I shouldn't bother someone. And it's like, well, you shouldn't bother someone in a bathroom and try to tell them what you want the TV show you have. But if you seriously want to do something, then do it to the best of your ability. Gain all the skills you can. But it's really about your own commitment to your own idea. Because you have to love, you have to have passion for what you're going to do. Because if it's, for example, in a television show, if you were actually going to create a TV show, which is a pretty big thing to imagine doing, but it's going to take you years to get it there. So you have to meet it. You're going to have to live with it for a long time. But if you want to do a little film, that's so doable. A short film is so doable. Join IMAC. You know, it's here, and there's mentors here who will help you. But it's your seriousness. It's your commitment. It's like you're making a promise to yourself. A promise is a promise even to yourself, and people will feel that in you and will respond to that, because people, that is a beautiful thing and it can't be ignored, you know. And one time when I was an actress, and I hated auditioning, as you can imagine, for a shy person, what that was like. And I went to visit a girlfriend who was a director, and she was in an audition, was in Toronto, and she was auditioning for something, and nothing appropriate for me. And I was meeting her for lunch, and it was, you know, and she was going, oh, nobody came through that was good. And she was so disappointed. And I understood something I'd never understood, was every time an actor walks in the door, the director's seriously hoping you're the one. I had always thought as an actor walking in the door, like, oh gosh, I've got to prove I'm good and they probably won't like, you know, and that's all my own baggage of the shy girl, you know, all that stuff. But to know that everybody actually wants you to be the one. You should want yourself to be the one, but you got to back it up with commitment, enthusiasm, do your homework, and humility, a kind of combination of humility and perfectionism, like insistence on detail but being humble. That combination, unbeatable. Well, it's not secure. And I mean, you're going to have to live with that. But in truth and fact, there's nothing in life that's secure. I mean, you can, everything changes. So that's life is full of change. But um, then you have to make your peace with that. That what makes you rich. I'm so rich, but I don't have the pension plan that all my friends who were school teachers are now at this stage of life coasting. I'm not coasting. I didn't have the straight job, and Comfy Couch was very successful, but it just missed. I thought it might take care of me forever. Well, it hasn't. That said, I'm wealthy in other things, so you have to determine what really matters to you. Do you really have to have the big car, the new car, the all that stuff? Or do you want the relationships and the impact of having a voice, that your own voice matters and you can say something to the world in your way of doing it, whether it's as a painter or a dancer, a director? That said, it might not hurt to get a skill set that you can make $1, because it's feast or famine in show business. And right now the industry is very odd and it's kind of famine-y as opposed to feasty. I mean, there used to be, you could go to Nova Scotia and there were films everywhere getting made, etc. So those people who have another little skill that they know they can, even if it's being the best waiter in the world, I don't know. I never had those other skills, so I've had to rely. And I at one point thought, well, I'll go and be a real estate agent. And I took the course to be a real estate agent because Dress Up had finished and Fraggle had finished, and there was this gap, and I had to make a living. I had 2 children to feed. And I took this real estate course, and it was good for me because I was feeling like lost. What can I do? And I discovered I was smart. I was starting to think that if you don't have work, it's because you're stupid. And because real estate was all contractual, I realized I was really good at this. I mean, my brain worked that way. And in truth and in fact, it trained me to be a producer because I learned how to really read contracts and know what they were. And then the world changed and Comfy Couch happened. But I did consider trying to provide myself with something else I could do well. So that might not hurt, and I don't know what that is. And I'm not saying don't follow your dream. I am saying you have to follow your dream, because otherwise you'll be resentful, miserable, and it won't be the life you want to lead. But you have to figure out what matters most to you and how to get that. It might be wise to write a book. Like to find a way to tell your story that isn't the one that you might think is the way you're going to tell your story. And I have to tell you, right now on television, they are more receptive to basing a series on a book than they are when you come in with a bright new idea, right? So you might be surprised how you get there from here. We need story. Everybody needs story. Whether you're 3 years old and you need Lunette and Molly to show you something you don't know, or you're 50 years old and you're watching True Detective and listening to Matthew McConaughey go on about what's good and evil. We all need story. And if that's what your propulsion is to tell stories, then the world needs you to do it. And you've got to find out how to do it. And it'll be your way. Like, nobody's lived my path either. I mean, who would have thunk it? How it all ended up. Everyone's path is different. But if that's what you want to do, good, because we need stories. We need them big time. Everybody needs stories. And if you're a writer, never forget that without story, there's nothing. There's no movie and there's no television without story. It's the writer. Read good stories. Find out how to tell good stories. Tell stories. And there's the thing. Do it. That's probably it. Do it. Just start writing stories. And if they're screen-based, and learn how to write a screenplay. What the format is and how it works. And then you can invite your friends over and sit around a table and read it and hear how it sounds. I mean, there's baby steps, but they're forward. And, we all started with baby steps, So be curious, be brave, have fun. What's the best thing from my work is that, to my great surprise, the shy girl in the corner who just watched and never said anything. I used to say I never said anything till I was 30. And it was true, right? But I watched, right? is that the truth is I've had this very loud voice in terms of reaching so many people and saying things that I think counted and continue to think count.